reversals. That's true. And also part of the issue with reversals, Joe, is reversals are discretionary. And the way we trade, these news reports is not discretionary. So it's a whole different system also. But it's something we are always thinking about. And I mean, that's why we're doing the opens with signals. So we are changing and adding a lot of new ways of doing things, definitely. Okay, so let me start the stream and then we'll get in here. All right, everybody. So welcome to the WASDE report, the 10-minute trades trade room. Just going to give folks 20 seconds to get in here. We said we'd start at 11:30. Okay, so welcome to the WASDE trade room at 10-minute trades. My name is Lee Goldstein. I'm the trading director. Please remember that all the trades we discuss are for educational purposes. It is possible to lose money trading futures, so please trade carefully. All right, so first things first, let's look at the DMM on the WASDE, the daily trade report. I do want to welcome everybody who's watching us on our stream. Thank you for joining us on YouTube. We're now streaming once a week. We're taking what we think will be the most interesting, most exciting trade of the week. We call it the stream of the week. So WASDE certainly fits the bill as being a stream of the week. The magnet trade started at about 11 o'clock, I guess you could say, right? And it came to fruition. It was not simple. It wasn't simple because it might have been that the time to enter the magnet was somewhere around 11:10, right? And it went up and almost tested it, and then it pulled back. It might have made you think that the magnet was tested because it got pretty close. All right, so let's look at the DMM. Make sure, number one, we're on the right contracts. I did check volume, so I do believe we are, that I'm on the right contracts. Corn is 722. Soybeans also 722. And the spring, summer WASDEs are usually the best. It's not a rule, it's not a guarantee. But the spring, summer WASDEs, the spring in particular, are usually the good moving WASDEs, but they've been moving. There's just been some whipsaws that have been getting us. So I'm going to set up my trade now, and then we'll watch some video. So I'm trading corn. Corn had a nice winner last month. It's had a couple of losers over the past 6 months. WASDE's been a little bit challenged. I'm hoping it's changing its stripes. So I'm going to use a bracket. You know what's funny? I'll tell you something funny. Let me look at something. I think that my boss has made a slight change to the DMM because I always use a bracket. I'm almost positive that the bracket on the WASDE is a 5, and I always use a 6. So let's take a quick look at a previous WASDE. So let me just pull an older WASDE. Yeah, so I'm not crazy. Bracket of 5, and he's updated it. I think because I've always told him, Jay, I always use a bracket at least of 6, at least of a 6 on WASDE. And corn has been 8. Corn has been 8. Corn is a little bit more volatile than soybeans. Soybeans is an 8, a little bit more volatile than corn. Okay, so for now, we've got a bracket of 6. I reserve the right to increase the bracket slightly. And then targets, I'm going to use 7, 17, and 27. Not positions. So that would be 24, 34, 44, 51 contracts. Not the way to do it. Now, the new version of the software is not going to let you do that. It's going to have a warning. Did you really mean to trade that many contracts? So my first target is 7. Second target is 17. And then I'm going to go 28. I'm going to go 27. On my third target, my stop is 12. The entry time is 11:59:59. 11:59:59. It's a breakout trade. And I always label it corn. Okay. And usually I set up a soybean trade also. I mean, only one time in the past year was there a very volatile move on corn before the news came out that I didn't think it should be traded. And I went to soybeans, and it was a profitable trade. So ever since that time, I've been setting up a soybean trade also, but it probably isn't necessary. It was only one time in a year. It's more than a year now. So targets 7, 17, and 27. You don't have to use the exact same targets as I use. And I think if my second target gets hit, I'm going to move my stop to break even plus 5. Or maybe plus 3. 11:59:59 on the trade, on the time. Okay. So that's my setup. Let's record. Get the video going, and then we'll talk about beans. Beans are a slightly different setup. They sometimes move a little bit earlier. So beans have beans all of a sudden got very volatile. When I got here before the room started, soybeans were only up about $1. Okay. They were only up about $1. The one thing I want to do before I do anything else is just check my bracket size. I want to check my bracket size so that when we analyze the trade, if we analyze the trade, I want to have the option of it looking clean and neat. So let's see what the brackets look like. A little big, a little bit big there. And perfect. All right. So if you want to check your bracket, you just have to set the time to earlier than now. So the software thinks the trade needs to trigger. So our normal targeting activation time is 11:59:59 on corn. 11:59:59 on corn. Okay, so my corn trade is ready. Now I guess it is, what's the word, tradition to create that second trade in case corn should be ultra volatile before the time of the report. So you can, so soybeans have a little bit bigger bracket. They're set to 8. And similar targets on soy. So I would do 717, 29-ish. The stop is 12. And the entry time is 11:59:58. It's a second earlier. Sometimes beans move early. And I'm making the trade live, but I'm not going to enable it because I'm only trading corn. I'm not trading both instruments. Okay. Bracket of 8, targets of 717, and a third if you want to use a third. Entry time of 11:59:58. And that would be my soybean trade. So like I said, I'm not activating it, but I'll have it ready in case I want to trade soybeans. Now, the markets are bullish, right? They're definitely bullish. Soybeans are quite a bit more bullish than corn so far this late morning on the East Coast. So I know why WASDE is not listed. Joe, it's an under the radar report. It's just not a popular report for whatever reason. It's never been listed. They never get the results for it, so we never know what the news is. It's just one of those trades that we found a long time ago, and it's just that's what it is. And they don't list the quarterly grains either. It's the grain stock report is actually the correct name for it. They don't list that. There's quite a few reports that they're not so popular, but most of them are listed. Most of them do get listed. But we look at a lot of reports that aren't that popular. Let's look at last month's WASDE to see what it looked like. So the brackets, of course. And last month it was like a delayed reaction. It looked like it might even stop out. And then it certainly made us all very nervous. It then pushed down, hit the first target. I usually try to protect profit on the WASDE. Last month was tricky. It was a little bit tricky. It was slow to respond. It was slow to respond. And then it pushed, and then it pushed. So, sometimes you'll have to manage it. Sometimes it'll shoot through your targets. WASDE definitely has been more difficult as of late than it has been previously. In January, it traded with quarterly grains. Here's January, trading with quarterly grains. And it was a much smaller move than I would have anticipated for quarterly grains. The quarterly grains in March were so fast and so big a move, we didn't get filled. I think only one person in the trade room got filled on the last quarterly grains report last month. That was almost more than a month ago. It was a little bit more than a month ago. Now, obviously, most trades, almost all the trades, usually have what we call a cancellation protocol. Cancellation protocol meaning the DMM says how long you wait to get filled after the news comes out until you cancel. WASDE has a 20-second cancel. One of the issues with a report like WASDE is there is no news that will shoot across our screens telling us A, the report's out, B, what the news is. And there was a time about a year ago, a little bit longer maybe, where WASDEs were all triggering very late, sometimes 30 seconds, 40 seconds after what we thought would be the release of the news. I generally don't cancel WASDE because it will tell you when the news is out almost always by filling your trade. So there just really isn't a reason to cancel the trade because if the news isn't out, it almost always just won't fill. Look, every now and then, of course, you can get filled early and it ruins the trade. But as a rule, WASDE is no different than most of our other trades. It will fill when the news comes out. That's obviously what we're always looking to do. Let's check our time sync. We do the same things over and over and over. That's our job. We go to the website time.is to check our sync, and the sync looks good. Let's look at, so we looked at April. April was tricky. Let's look at April because it was tricky. Let's look at it one more time. Okay, so here's the event. On this particular day, the report came out pretty close to 12. It was only a second, and it looked like the news came out because we got filled pretty quickly. And then it filled, but you could see it wasn't married to a steady move. It was a good move. It wasn't a bad move. It was a good move, and then it got better. It got even better. Soybeans. Let's see what soybeans looked like. Soybeans were just looking at the move, no brackets. Soybeans were much later last month, much later. I think soybeans look kind of tough. Looked a little tough. You had an 8-tick bracket, so the DMM says soybeans worked last month. And interestingly, soybeans were late last month. Let's see what soybeans were on the when it traded in January with the quarterly grain report at the same time. So January soybeans also were behind corn on the move. Soybeans were behind corn. Usually soybeans are the first to move, but there's no always. There's no always. So they don't always move first, but they have a tendency to move first, and that's why soybeans have that 1 second earlier trigger. So if they do decide to move earlier, then you have the ability to get the move in time. So you don't have to jump on a moving train, right? We checked our sync, and I'm always a lunatic. I always check it more than once. It's been a long time since my computer has been out of sync. Can't remember the last time I had to put my computer in sync. So I want to thank you on YouTube for watching us. If you want to hit the like button and sign up for our channel, you'll know the next time we're going to stream. So soybeans are a bracket of 8, targets of 7 and 17 on the DMM. 11:59:58 is the trigger time, the entry, and the stop is 12 on beans. And beans have been moving quite a bit more than corn prior to the news. That does not always mean anything. We see instrument volatility on many, many instruments before reports pretty regularly. And strong reports create moves and have their own lives. It's like a report has its own little life, and then it goes back to what the market is going to do, what that particular market's going to do. And we see it over and over and over. Even giant moves, for instance, in gold. This morning, gold was not a giant move, but it was pretty volatile before PPI. And it still had a normal open and it had a normal move on the PPI report. Gold traded CPI and PPI this week better than it had been doing recently. So we changed many of our reports off of gold because gold hasn't been behaving itself on a lot of reports. There were always reports where gold was difficult. CPI in the old days, and I mean going back more than 2 years, CPI used to trade with US retail. When it traded with US retail, it was a fantastic moving report. It used to be retail and CPI, they traded the same day, the same time. Great trade. It was a prime trade, if I remember correctly, which was a precursor to our family money trades. And then, for whatever reason, whoever makes these decisions decided to split the reports apart, and CPI got released separately from retail news, US retail. And then it became a very difficult gold trade. So that's why we came up with different setups. CPI, it took us a long time to find a viable setup for CPI that was working. The only shame today is that our NQ worked beautifully, but our ES got stopped, so our profit was tiny on PPI. Had I only traded NQ, we would have had a great profit, a nice profit. But you know what? It's like I said before, though. Had they both worked, we would have had almost $1,000 trade. So those are some of the risks you take. And for us, it's also the reason we take those risks is so you can see the multiple ways you can trade the same report. We're not always here just trying to make money. We are also trying to show you the options. And sometimes that means taking a little bit extra risk so that we could show you a breakout and a range on the same report on different instruments. So sometimes our account suffers because we're trying to show you and teach. And I'm not making an excuse for why our profits might not be bigger. It is the truth. And it always cracks me up when people that don't know us and they're looking to join our service. The first thing they'll say is, "Well, what's your success rate?" So if you take into the truth about educating, which means sometimes we will sacrifice our account to teach you something, looking just at the success rate isn't always a fair matrix of how we're doing. It's just something to think about. It's not that we're ever trying to hide, but sometimes we just do extra things, which creates extra risk in order that we could show you what your options are so that you can make the most profit possible. So, and then, you think when you're sitting in your room, you think to yourself, oh no, all of that's just a bunch of malarkey. None of that's true. I just shouldn't have traded the ES breakout today. But no, it's, you know, the ES breakout on CPI and PPI has been working great. It's been really good. In fact, yesterday I simmed it and it worked great on CPI. And Q worked also. So, the hardest part of this job is deciding what to trade. It's always the most complicated, never easy, especially now because there are multiple setups on so many different trades that are good. All right. So we only have a couple of minutes, 3 minutes to WASDE. So thanks again, everyone on YouTube. Thanks for the likes. Appreciate it. WASDE is a grain report. And you'd think that it would be automatically bullish. You'd think that no matter what happens today, WASDE would have to go up. Or at least a part of you would be thinking that because of the war in Ukraine. Everyone knows that Ukraine is a very large grain supplier to the world's food banks. And there's a shortage because of the war. So you'd think that the WASDE report would probably create a situation that would lend itself to prices going up, which would make the price go up on the report. That's what we might think, right? But we know from experience that you could do all the analysis you want to do on these news reports, and it just doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it has no relation to anything except being a momentary blip, a momentary movement in a day's trading. So we got about a minute to go. All right, exactly a minute. So remember, I don't cancel WASDE because normally the report will fill you when the news comes out. As of late, it's been filling pretty quickly. All right, 15 seconds. So I got whipsawed out, unfortunately. What a shame. It went down first, then up. Now that order doesn't exist there. It's just, it's stuck there. Now, very frustrating. Price is looking like it wants to go up. It's looking like it wants to go up. Maybe I should have set up a secondary trade, but I didn't, so it is what it is. It's pretty disappointing. WASDE has been whipping, unfortunately. 4 out of the last 6, it's been whipping. So it didn't work. Didn't work. Anybody have anything that worked out there? Anybody have anything that worked out there? Now, I wasn't watching soybeans to see if they dropped down first also. I just wonder if maybe we need to revisit WASDE and create a range for it. And create a range. So that's going to be something that we're going to, I think we will seriously take a look at going forward, because WASDE's been whipping too darn much. It's just been whipping too darn much. So it's, it's a frustration. It is a frustration. I'm just watching price action right now. Langford, your trade didn't trigger probably because it was so fast. So, I mean, that's a lucky break. I'm going to just reboot my platform just to get rid of that order. Doesn't exist. It's not a real order. So look, it is a shame. There's not much I can do about it. Not much I can do about it. It's trading close. It made a new high on the report. The problem was the drop down. That drop down first filled us in the wrong direction. And I'm just curious what time that execution was. So
Lee, what's going on? Eric here.
hey, what's up?
Not much. Hey everyone, Eric Roth here. So I actually traded behind the scenes as well. I don't know if you announced it to everybody, but I traded soybeans and I also got whipped, which looks like that you got whipped as well, correct?
Yep,
Okay.
definitely whipped.
Well, okay. Well, definitely I sent you my video and happy, let's share that with everyone. And it's a family money trade, but it just comes to show you that no trade is invincible. And there's always risk with every trade. And yeah, I know I was kind of listening to what you were saying and before the trade. And bottom line is, we're all about transparency here. So that's why I know usually when I come on Lee behind the scenes, it's like, okay, well, I made money, and there's no shame in showing a losing trade as well. So unfortunately, I just want to give my account to everyone that soybeans had a similar kind of whipsaw. So you could share that with everyone. And yeah, definitely a bummer today. Um, I also want to just plug in tomorrow. For those of you on YouTube and then listening in, Lee and I are going to do a really cool podcast tomorrow. It's actually Friday the 13th. Feels like it right now. And I want to cover with everyone all the big changes that are coming for the second half of the year. So just stay tuned. But Lee, in your case, did you get filled short and then it popped?
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Anything you want to ask me before I leave?
No,
Or are
I'm
you
good.
good?
I'm gonna show your. I'll show what happened with soybeans.
Yeah. Well, the one thing, this is a trade that's actually dear to my heart because it's actually in my top five favorite trades. So, made a lot of money in this trade over the last decade, very profitable. And it just shows you that, even when you have a really good trade, you never want to go all in on a trade, right? And Lee, I know over the past month you've been having some really great success with the earning trades. I think you made like $1,700 on one of the Fang stocks. And look, I'm looking at the board. I see $1,000 of a loss, right? Which totally stinks, but it's not wiping away 50% of our account, right? So that's really important too, right? That's the way to stay in this game for the long haul, right? If you're gonna just go all in on a family money trade, you're not gonna be able to survive another day. So it sucks. We lost $1,000, but we still have a very healthy account, and I have a lot more things I'm going to share tomorrow. So I'll turn it back to you again. This is Eric Roth, and today we had a losing trade, but we're all about transparency here, and we're going to learn from this, and we're going to make adjustments.
Okay, I agree with that. I think that if we look at the DMM with WASDE, I think we have to admit that something not very positive is going on with WASDE. Because let's look at the DMM, right? And I think immediately for next month, we'll look for a range trade or we'll look at a trap trade. But, or look, we need to examine WASDE because it's 3 out of 6 now that haven't worked. Or you could say 3 out of 7, 3 out of 7. But it's a heads up on a report that has been 4 out of 6, 5 out of 7. So it's possibly time to do a reboot and look and see if there might be a better way to trade it because it is possible. So let's take a look quickly at what didn't work about soybeans. And it's interesting is that grains are going up. Grains are going up. So here's what happened with soybeans. It's more frustrating if you don't trade soybeans and they would have worked. In this particular case, they didn't work either. So there wasn't a whole heck of a lot you could do to fix it. And you can see, so here's the moment of the trade, and it shoots. When you get a whipsaw like that, when you get movement that doesn't go in one direction, that's our greatest enemy. That's our greatest enemy. So that kind of a move, it just makes it almost impossible to make money with a breakout trade, no matter how big your stop is, because it winds up being such a large move. So in this case, we gotta do some analysis on this. But yeah, grains, maybe grains were just a long trade, forgetting the report based on the war and some of the things that I said, if you know what I'm talking about. So any questions? So for the breakout didn't work, so we have to live with it, and we'll be back at 12:30 for the 30-year bond trade. So if there's no questions, I'll see everybody in about 20 minutes. for the 30-year bond trade. Okay? All right. So I'll see you all in a little bit. And thank you everybody for watching on YouTube. And Pastor, I'll have to get you the next time. Pastor, I'll have to get you the next time. But very simply, Pastor, what we're doing is we're putting an order above and below the current price. We're bracketing the current price. And normally the goal is to get pulled into the market in one direction and get a follow through. What happened today, there was a whipsaw, so it pulled us into the market in one direction and then changed direction and stopped us out of the trade. But our strategy is to put a price above and below the current price and get pulled in one direction and get a continuation. Okay. Thank you everyone for watching on YouTube. And if you're interested in learning about the way that we trade, you can join our trade room, www.jointhetraderoom.com. It's only $97 a month. And believe me when I say this was our first losing trade this week. So I'll see everybody, www.jointhetraderoom.com. Love to have you join us. And for all our members, I'll see everybody at 12:30 for the bond trade. So I'll see you all later.